Okay, I am very grateful to be part of the UUCP community gathering again. Good to see you all virtually. The UUCP community is part of my heart. As most of you know, I moved from Phoenix to Greensboro, North Carolina to be with my 91-year-old father in his final days. And I want you to know that he passed peacefully last January. I live now in Asheville, North Carolina. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Louise Branscomb. I am deeply grateful to her for joining us today and sharing this service. Considered iconic among songwriters in acoustic and bluegrass music, Louise is a lifelong pioneer in songwriting, performing, and mentoring, leading to the Pinnacle IBMA Distinguished Achievement Award in 2017. She's garnered many awards from the International Bluegrass Association, 2 Grammy cuts by Alison Krauss and John Denver, and has over 300 recorded songs, many of them #1. Beyond songwriting and performing, she dedicates her time to serving others through her nonprofit work, using songs to heal individuals and communities. She directs Woodsong Farm Songwriter Retreat, and in fact, her next online retreat is coming up January 21st and 22nd, The Eye of the Storm, Songwriting and Identity in an Age of Uncertainty. For more information, you may contact her at branscombmusic@gmail.com. Now we are going to go to a poem by Louise, and this is where I go off.
So, roll over Beethoven, because we got some banjo coming in today. At every moment of our lives, we are standing on the edge of the next moment. The deeper the night, the softer the silver hand of morning. I have not known the depth of my aloneness until the first caress of dawn. Sentience warms me silently, slowly. Waves of wonder seeping into my heart, rising into the waiting space. Space waiting so long, it forgot its song. It forgot what it was waiting for. I became so still as the waters rose there, quiet in the dawn of care. I'd slept so long I lived the psalm, yea, though I walk, thou art. But as the light rose there in my heart, I remembered thirst, I remembered hunger, and I remembered art. Still the question would not return. Then came the answer, this. You have been waiting for this. You have to be over here.
My father taught me to sail. He said a good sailor optimizes the wind and positions the boat accordingly. He said, watch where the wind is blowing and place the boat so the sail can capture the best of it. In fact, when a sailboat is in the right position, balanced and even keel, maximizing the force of the wind, the center board, which is the board in the middle of the boat that stabilizes it, vibrates. When this center board vibrates, a hum shakes the boat. This hum means all the elements are in perfect alignment. It is a wonderful, satisfying feeling, as if the boat is happy. We are all living in unprecedented, challenging times. Winds are strong and unpredictable. For many of us, the customs of how we lived before the pandemic have fallen away. We find ourselves now stripped to bare necessities. For instance, a day well spent can be just breathing, walking, getting dinner ready. These times call us to respond creatively, to adjust and to adapt with care to the uniqueness of the day. Using sailing as a metaphor, we are sailors paying attention to how the winds are blowing, and we respond accordingly. Maybe it's time to take down the spinnakers and use just one essential sail. Spinnakers are the extra sails which make the boat move faster. Maybe it's time to slow down, travel lighter, and simply with one sail. My dad said a good sailor uses a special tool, the telltale. A telltale is a very fine piece of sewing thread. It is usually tied to the front wires of the boat. The telltale shows the wind's intensity and where it is coming from. My dad was a taskmaster when it came to keeping an eye on the telltale. I was never allowed to divert my attention, for if I did, just for a second, the sail would flutter and flap. Pay attention, my dad reprimanded. Watch the telltale. The wind has changed. This constant attention on the telltale and steering the boat accordingly is a moment-to-moment life practice. Winds constantly change in speed, direction, and strength. To sail is a continuous exercise to pay attention and adjust. We are all sailors in our unique boat, experiencing the same pandemic storm with its winds of tumult and uncertainty. How we respond to these winds is creative and sometimes mystifying creative, intentional process, a work of art becoming itself as we watch moment by moment the telltale thread of each day and adjust the position of our lives. One composer whose works of art I am deeply influenced by is Beethoven. How he navigated through the storms of his life and his historical times is inspirational. Despite his circumstances, he continued to write music and outpoured great works of art. At the age of 28, Beethoven plunged into the horrific crisis of losing his hearing. In 1802, he wrote his brothers expressing his despair about going deaf. He even mentioned contemplating suicide. He said that he was brought to the edge of despair, but in the end, art and patience saved him. In his words, little more and I would have put an end to my life. Only art it was that withheld me. It seemed impossible to leave the world until I had produced all that I had felt called upon me to produce. And so I endured the wretched existence, truly wretched, which a sudden change can throw from the best into the worst state. About patience, he said, patience. It is said that I must now choose my guide, for I have done so. Perhaps I shall get better, perhaps not. I am prepared. As we know, Beethoven went on to write several masterpieces. I'm going to share a piece with you now, written in 1804 when he was 30 years old. It is an excerpt from the third movement of his Tempest Sonata and demonstrates his powerful ability to create inspiration. So here is the third movement to Beethoven's Tempest Sonata. It was written in 1804, and as you can see, it's during the time where he's struggling with his new circumstance. The theme is like a hook to a songwriter. It's a motive. You keep hearing this very sad, melancholic tune. And then Beethoven tells more of his story. A little more. Wondering what the winds will bring. Then he travels and travels until he arrives back to the theme, but now we're not in the key of D minor, we're in the key of B flat minor. So we're traveling, we're becoming something at another level. He'll return to the theme in the right key. And then our ending sort of like a question. Is it acceptance? Is it wonder? So here's an excerpt of this piece by Beethoven. Okay, Louise, up here, change your thing. There you go. Up there, can you change? There, click that. Now, start video.
It's on. It's on.
Okay. Now, I am introducing you to Louise Branscomb, who will now share with us how you can be a songwriter of your own life and what songs have to teach us about surviving and thriving.
Thank you, Lynn. And it's wonderful to be a part of the congregation today, and also, as always, to collaborate with the brilliant Lynne Haeseler. As Lynn has said, and as Beethoven has shown us, each of us is the artist of our own lives. We don't have to be a painter or a great composer or a potter or a dancer to be an artist. We only need to learn to think like one, and you can pick your art. For me, that is songs. Since I was 5 years old, I've lived my experiences in the form of songs. I was shy and creative, and it came natural to me whether I was going to run down a trail or catch a fish, get in a rowboat and catch a fish with my dad. Life was just a series of stories, and stories are songs. And so to me, a song is a living, breathing entity. It's something that I give birth to inside myself, nurture, help grow, help shape, but that has its own heart and mind and soul. Once born, a song takes on its own wings, and like a child who comes of age, goes out into the world to touch other people, standing on its own. What is it that the song knows, and what can it tell us? Like an adult child who's grown up and gotten its own wisdom and speaks back to us, what can the song tell us after we have given all we can to bring it to its best when we had a part in it? And what can we learn from the song in these challenging times about surviving and even thriving? I'd like to describe 3 things that I thought about in preparing this that a song can teach us. First, a song has a beginning and a middle and an end. And that gives us a structure like this playground set to organize our own experiences and tell our stories to ourselves and to other people. And it lets us at the end of each one pause and fully feel what that story was about, and think about it and learn from it and maybe share it. Second, a song has a takeaway that makes it more than just a story. A song is a phenomenon that begins when you go through the rabbit hole of your own intensely personal experience, and suddenly you fall and you're out in the universal, the great sky of the collective unconscious, as Jung called it. This is what makes a good song. It's very personal, but it is not about the ego. It's personal in a way that then connects with the universal, and that's why it means something to other people. And it doesn't matter whether that person is in your culture or of your racial background or sexual orientation or height or the color of your eyes. A song takes us to the universal. The moral or the takeaway of the song is the thing that resonates with the universal. And it's the thing that lets us move to a new level. We are never at the end of a song where we were at the beginning of a song. And you are never at the end of a song when you listen to one in the same place that you were at the beginning. And so in this way, a song transforms life. And that's the takeaway from the song. We might not be able to control the events outside our windows right now, but we can control the telling. And as Carl Jung said, it's not our stories, but it's the meaning in our stories that allows us to survive and thrive and be part of humanity. Outside my window is a child's playground. This is an example of how your stories can work. During this time of challenge, the view of the kids on the playground has let me be feel like I'm still a part of life and vitality. And yesterday I looked out the window to see a mother encouraging a child to try using the sliding board for the first time. And I could hear her say, "You can do it, you can do it." Now, as I've told you the story so far, we already have set the stage for the song. In your mind, you're wondering what's going to happen. And so you're with me in this song. See, it's easy to do. It's like going to the grocery store. What mask will I wear? Which shield will I use? What time of day will I go? So this is how your life is stories and songs. Now let's get back to this little girl. She's not too sure, and as I watched, she was kind of pulling against the mother's hand and hanging back, but the mother gave her that delicate balance of support and freedom to say no if she needed to. And so the little girl, with that freedom, puts her feet on the rungs of the ladder one at a time. And watching from my window, I wonder, what will her first slide be like? Now I have the title of this song. Either first slide or sliding board. You get to make up your own title. And already this title is guiding how I form this story in my mind as I watch the story first slide unfold. Now, the first verse, in which the child has decided to let go of the mother's hand and go up that ladder, has happened, and we're well into the second verse, or what is happening. So the little girl is scared, but she's really thrilled to be climbing this ladder because she's taller than her mom now, and she's above her mom's head on the ladder. And she grins and giggles and screeches like those kids do, little kids do. And she's so excited, and she looks down at her mom each step of the way, getting support right up to the top. And she gets to the very top, and with her mom still cheering her on, she's sitting at the edge. We have our middle verse now, which was what happened from the beginning to so far. And in a good song, as I hope you are right now, you would be engaged with me and wondering what's going to happen at the end of the song, our last verse. So here's what's happening at the end, at the moment of getting it on the top of the ladder. The little kid has a little bit of fear, but after a few more encouraging words, she lets go and takes the risk to slide down on her own. Picking up speed, she races to the bottom, and she's just as exhilarated as she can be with that freedom. But she's unprepared for the landing. She hits the ground, loses her balance, and falls, crying out to her mom. And like most of us, when we take a big risk, we're not necessarily thinking about what happens when we get to the bottom. But the song isn't over, thankfully. I am writing this song, and I've decided it's not over, and I see that the mom runs over to her, gathers her up in her arms to console her. And I'm going to my pictures. And so as the little girl is sitting there wrapped in her mom's arms, she stops crying. A miracle happens. She decides she's fine. And she gets up and pulls away from her mother, literally tears her hand away, and runs back to the slide to do it again. Now, this song has a takeaway or a moral, like all songs should. For me, it might be, don't give up. Don't stop taking risks just because you don't know what's going to happen. Or my moral might be, life is easier when someone's there to catch us when we fall. The takeaway could be a feeling, and a feeling usually goes with a moral. It could be compassion for the little girl. It could be a feeling from our own past. How did it feel like when we took a risk? Was the person we needed there? Were we humiliated, or were we joyful? Often the feeling from a song is a feeling we denied, such as fear of the unknown. So I ask you now, if this song meant something to you, maybe it's because you, like me, we're all on a sliding board. We don't know where we're going. And in the events around us right now, we don't know where we're going to land or when we're going to get to the bottom. And we feel sometimes like we're just on this sliding board that we didn't have a choice about jumping off and taking the slide. It's not important what my takeaway is. It's only important that I craft the song in such a way and give it a little bit of soul, such as someone like you will have space to make meaning of your own. And so as we go through our ordinary and extraordinary days, writing our lives like songs, each adventure or experience or story of your life can have some advantages. It gives us pause to stop and write a story of our own choosing, to lend the meaning to the events in our lives. It gives us a story we can share with others. Living our lives as artists in this way can be risky business because art demands that you get to the heart of the story. That's the hook or the name of the song and the feeling that goes with it. As the poet Rilke said, "Who among us has not pulled back the curtains of his own heart only to see the furniture in disarray?" But it's that same honesty and willingness to pull back the curtains to tell our stories that allows us to get to the universal, to get to the level of honesty that art requires and demands, and then have a song that has a little bit of soul to it, and that has involved us moving from one place to another. It's the meaning that we give to life that transforms our experience and allows us to value the extraordinary and ordinary events of our lives as we move from one song to the next.